He yanked the car door open and shouted before she could even turn her head, "Step out. Now." His voice cutting through the night like a siren. Sharp, certain, already judging. Ava Carter froze for half a second, not out of fear, but calculation, the kind that lives in the bones of someone trained to read danger before it speaks. Her hands still resting on the steering wheel, fingers steady, breath controlled. The dashboard light painting her skin in a soft amber glow while red and blue lights pulsed across the windshield in restless waves. Officer Ryan Cole stood there, tall, rigid, one hand near his belt, posture tight with authority, eyes narrowed not in curiosity but conclusion, like the story had already been written in his head and she was just a line in it. "I said step out," he repeated, louder now, the edge sharper, the space between them shrinking without him moving an inch. Ava blinked once, slow, deliberate, her voice calm when it came, almost too calm for the tension wrapped around the moment. "Officer, I am reaching for my identification." Each word measured, each syllable placed like it mattered, because it did. The night air was cool, maybe 60 degrees, a faint breeze brushing against the side mirror, carrying the distant hum of traffic from the highway less than a mile away. But here, right here, everything felt sealed, contained, like the world had paused to watch. Ryan did not nod, did not acknowledge, just watched her hand move, slow, controlled, toward the inside pocket of her jacket, and something in his jaw tightened, not uncertainty, not hesitation, something closer to irritation, like patience was already a burden he did not intend to carry. The flashlight beam flickered across her face, then down to her hands, then back up again, quick, restless, searching for something that justified what he already believed. Ava felt it, that weight, that silent assumption pressing against her chest. But her expression did not change, her training holding the line where emotion could not. A small detail, almost invisible, slipped through the moment, the corner of a leather badge holder barely visible inside her jacket, hidden but not entirely. A quiet truth waiting to be seen, or ignored. "Keep your hands where I can see them," Ryan snapped suddenly, his tone jumping, tension rising without warning, like a storm breaking early. Ava stopped mid-motion, her hand hovering, then slowly lifting back into view, palms open, empty, her voice softer now, not weaker, just steadier. "I am not a threat." The words hung there, fragile, honest, and somehow unwelcome. The lights kept flashing, red, blue, painting the inside of the car in pulses that felt like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, then silence again. Ryan stepped closer, boots crunching lightly on gravel, his shadow stretching across her door, blocking what little light remained. And in that moment, the space between power and restraint thinned to almost nothing. Ava's eyes shifted for just a second, not away from him, but past him, toward the empty road, as if measuring distance, options, outcomes, all in one quiet glance. Something about her stillness did not fit the story Ryan expected, and that mismatch lingered, subtle, unsettling, like a note slightly off-key. If you can feel this tension building, stay with me, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss what comes next, and tell me where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now, because moments like this feel different depending on where you stand in the world. The air tightened again as Ryan's voice cut through. "Lower this. Time. Colder. Last warning." And Ava, still seated, still composed, took a slow breath, the kind that carries both restraint and something deeper, something waiting, something not yet revealed. The silence stretched just a fraction too long after his last warning, the kind of silence that does not calm a moment but sharpens it, and Ava felt it settle across her shoulders like weight, familiar, unwelcome, but not new. She kept her hands raised, steady, fingers slightly apart, so there was no confusion, no excuse, her breathing slow, and even while her mind moved faster beneath the surface, mapping everything, his stance, the angle of his shoulders, the distance between them, the way his right foot was slightly forward like he was bracing for resistance that had not come. "I am not reaching," she said quietly, her voice low but clear, meant to steady the air, not challenge it. But the words seemed to pass right through him, unregistered, like he was listening for something else entirely. The flashlight beam flicked again, too fast now, jumping from her face to her hands to the empty passenger seat, searching, insisting. And Ava noticed the detail that did not belong, the slight tremor in his grip, small, almost invisible. But there, a crack in the certainty he was trying to project. Her heart pressed harder against her ribs. Not panic, not fear exactly, something more controlled, more disciplined, the instinct to survive a situation that was slipping away from reason. She had been in rooms colder than this, in conversations sharper than this, but those moments had rules, structure, a shared understanding of truth, and this did not. This was something else, something unpredictable, something built on assumption instead of fact. The red and blue lights reflected in his eyes now, not just on her windshield, turning his gaze into something harder to read. And for a brief second, Ava wondered if he even saw her at all, or just the outline of someone he had already decided she was. "Sir, my identification is in my jacket." She tried again, slower this time, softer. Each word spaced carefully like stepping stones across unstable ground. But the space between them did not ease. It tightened. Ryan shifted his weight, just slightly, but enough, his posture changing from watchful to decisive, like a line had been crossed inside his mind that she could not see. "You are not listening," he said, but it sounded less like a statement and more like a conclusion he had already accepted, and Ava felt something sink in her chest. Not defeat, not yet, but the understanding that control was no longer shared in this moment. Her fingers tingled from holding still, her shoulders beginning to ache, but she did not lower them. She could not. Not now. Not when every movement might be read the wrong way. A car passed in the distance, headlights sweeping briefly across the scene, illuminating the interior of her car for just a second. And in that flash, the edge of the badge inside her jacket caught the light again. A quiet signal, a truth waiting to be acknowledged. But Ryan did not look there. His focus locked somewhere else, somewhere narrower. Ava swallowed once, slow, deliberate, grounding herself, remembering her training, her purpose, the reason she had been on this road in the first place, the case, the hours, the quiet patience it had taken to get this far, and how quickly all of it could unravel in a moment like this. "I need you to hear me," she said, not louder, just firmer, her voice carrying something deeper now, not authority, not yet, but presence, the kind that does not beg to be recognized but exists anyway. For a split second, something shifted in his expression, not understanding, not acceptance, just a flicker, like doubt brushing the surface before being pushed back down. The lights kept flashing, the air kept pressing in, and Ava remained exactly where she was, hands up, voice steady, holding on to the one thing she still had control over, herself, even as everything else began to tilt. Ryan moved first, not fast, not slow, just certain, like the decision had already been made somewhere inside him before this moment even began, his hand tightening near his belt, his voice dropping lower, sharper. "Step out of the vehicle now." And this time it was not a request, not even a warning. It was a command that left no space for interpretation. Ava felt the shift immediately, the air closing in tighter, her instincts flaring, not with panic but with clarity, the kind that comes when a situation crosses a line you cannot step back from. And still, she did not move abruptly, did not break the stillness she had been holding on to, because she knew, one wrong motion, one misread gesture, and everything could spiral. "I will comply," she said, her tone steady, controlled. But something underneath it had changed, something firmer, something grounded, her eyes meeting his for just a second longer than before, not defiance, not submission, just presence. Slowly, carefully, she shifted her left hand toward the door handle, every inch deliberate, every movement visible, the kind of precision that comes from years of training, years of knowing that survival sometimes lives in the smallest details. The handle clicked softly, the sound almost too quiet against the hum of the night, and the door opened a few inches, just enough for the cool air to slip inside, carrying with it the distant echo of another siren somewhere far off, or maybe not so far. Ryan stepped back half a pace, giving space but not trust, his eyes locked on her hands, on her shoulders, on everything that could move, and Ava could feel it, that scrutiny, that constant search for a reason to escalate. She pushed the door open wider and stepped out slowly, her shoes touching the pavement with a soft, grounded sound, her hands still raised, still open, still empty. The red and blue lights washing over her now without the filter of glass, sharper, colder, real. The night felt bigger outside the car, but also more exposed, like there was nowhere left to retreat, nowhere to contain what was unfolding. Turn around, Ryan ordered, and Ava paused for a fraction of a second, not resisting, just processing, her mind still working, still measuring, still trying to hold on to control in a moment that was slipping further away. I am cooperating, she said quietly, but she turned, slowly, her back now to him. The vulnerability of it settling in her chest like a weight she could not ignore. The beam of the flashlight moved again, scanning her from behind, quick, sharp, invasive, and then something else cut through the moment. A crackle from Ryan's radio, sudden, loud against the tension. A voice came through, distorted at first, then clearer, urgent but controlled. Unit 12, confirm status on the vehicle stop, near mile marker 47. The words slicing into the silence, shifting the rhythm of everything. Ryan did not respond immediately, his attention still fixed on Ava, like the voice in his ear was secondary, like this moment mattered more than protocol. Ava heard it too, every word, every tone, and something inside her sharpened, a thread connecting, a possibility opening. But she did not turn, did not speak yet, because timing mattered. Timing was everything. The radio crackled again, louder this time, more insistent. Unit 12, we have an active federal operation in your area. Repeat, federal operation in your area. And that word hung there, federal, heavy, loaded, a detail that did not belong in a routine stop, a detail that changed the shape of the moment if anyone chose to hear it. Ryan's posture shifted, just slightly, a hesitation flickering through his stance, but it was brief, almost swallowed by the momentum he had already built, his grip tightening again, his voice cutting through, do not move. As if the world around him had not just shifted. Ava felt it then, the collision of two realities, the one he believed he controlled, and the one that was already closing in, unseen, undeniable, and for the first time, the tension was not just between them, it was expanding, stretching outward, pulling something larger into the scene, something that neither of them could stop now. The word federal still lingered in the air, heavy, unresolved, but Ryan did not step back from it. He stepped through it, like it was noise instead of warning, his voice rising again, sharper now. I said do not move. And Ava felt the distance between reality and his perception stretch even further apart. Her back was still turned, her hands still raised, her shoulders steady even as the situation tightened around her. And she knew this moment had shifted into something more dangerous, not because of force, but because of refusal, refusal to see, refusal to listen. The radio crackled again, louder, overlapping with the pulse of the lights. Unit 12, respond, confirm you heard that advisory. The tone more urgent now, less routine, and Ava's mind caught every detail, every change in cadence, because this was no longer just a traffic stop. It was interference, unintentional maybe, but real. Officer, she said carefully, not turning, not lowering her hands, her voice controlled, but carrying more weight now. You need to answer that. And for a split second, the command was not his, it was hers, quiet but grounded in something deeper than authority, something earned. Ryan's jaw tightened again, his silence stretching just a second too long, like he was choosing which reality to stand in, the one in front of him, or the one coming through the radio. And he chose the one he could control. You do not tell me what I need to do, he snapped, stepping closer, closing the gap that had barely existed to begin with, his presence pressing in, his certainty hardening. Ava felt it, that shift from tension to escalation, the kind that does not need movement to grow. It feeds on assumption, on misread signals, on pride. And she knew she had to anchor the moment before it tipped further. I am informing you, she said, her voice still calm, but firmer now, each word landing with intention. There is a federal operation active in this area. And the sentence hung there, clear, direct, impossible to misinterpret if he allowed himself to hear it. The wind picked up slightly, brushing against her jacket, and with it, the edge of the badge inside shifted just enough to press against the fabric. A small movement, almost nothing, but enough to remind her of what she carried, what she represented, even if he refused to see it. Ryan's flashlight lowered a fraction, just a fraction, his eyes narrowing, processing, and for a moment, doubt surfaced again, thin, fragile, but there, and then the radio cut in once more, sharper this time, cutting through everything. All units clear the area immediately. Repeat, clear the area. Federal agents on site. And the words did not just enter the scene. They landed, heavy, undeniable, changing the gravity of everything around them. Ava's breath slowed, not from relief, not yet, but from recognition. This was the moment where the truth could surface, where the situation could correct itself, if it was allowed to. "Officer Cole," she said, and this time she used his name, deliberate, precise, a detail she should not have known, a detail that did not belong to a random stop. Her voice steady, but carrying something new now, something that cut through the tension instead of trying to soften it. "You are interfering with a federal investigation," and the words settled into the space between them like a line drawn in clear view. Ryan froze for a fraction of a second, just enough for the crack to widen, his mind catching up to the pieces that did not fit. The radio, her calm, the name, the lack of fear, but pride does not release control easily. And instead of stepping back, he held his ground, his voice lower now, more controlled, but still resistant. "Then show me," he said, the challenge sitting heavy in the air. "Show me who you are." And the moment balanced on that edge, fragile, volatile, waiting to tip in one direction or the other. The challenge hung in the air like a trigger that had already been pulled. "Then show me who you are." And Ava felt the weight of that demand settle into her chest, not because she could not answer it, but because of what answering it meant, the line it would cross, the operation it would expose, everything she had been holding together quietly now forced into the open. She did not turn right away, did not rush, because rushing here could be misread, twisted into something it was not, and she had already seen how quickly that could happen. So instead she breathed in once, slow, grounding herself, and then spoke. "You need to step back." Her voice calm but firm now, no longer asking to be heard, stating what needed to happen. Ryan did not move, his stance locked, his focus unbroken, the flashlight steady now, but his eyes sharper, searching, pressing, demanding proof that fit his version of control, not hers. The radio burst again, louder, urgent now, overlapping signals cutting through the night. "All units clear immediately. Federal agents are moving in. Repeat, clear the area." And this time there was no mistaking it, no soft edges left. The message was direct, absolute. But still he held his ground, as if stepping back meant losing something more than position. Ava felt the moment tipping, the balance gone, the situation no longer something that could be quietly corrected, and she knew she had one path left, not ideal, not safe, but necessary. Slowly, carefully, she spoke again. "I am going to reach into my jacket." Each word deliberate, spaced, undeniable, her hands still raised, her body still turned, giving him every signal of compliance even as she prepared to reveal the truth he had been resisting. "Do not move." Ryan snapped again, louder this time, his voice cutting through the layered sounds. But it came a fraction too late, because the moment had already shifted. Ava moved one hand slowly, controlled, toward the inside of her jacket, every inch visible, every second stretched thin, and for that brief space, everything seemed to hold its breath, the lights, the wind, even the distant traffic fading into the background. Her fingers found the edge of the badge, cool, solid, real, and she paused there, just for a heartbeat, not out of fear, but out of recognition of what this moment would change, and then she pulled it free, turning slightly, just enough for the metal to catch the flashing lights, gold against red and blue, unmistakable. "Federal Bureau of Investigation," she said, not loud, not aggressive, just clear, each word landing with weight that did not need force behind it. The silence that followed was different, heavier, deeper, like the air itself had dropped. Ryan's expression shifted, not all at once, but in fragments, confusion first, then disbelief, then something else, something harder to name, as the pieces he had ignored began to align in ways he could not control anymore. The radio crackled again, voices overlapping now, closer, sharper, the sound of engines in the distance growing, approaching fast, and Ava lowered her badge just slightly, not hiding it, just letting it rest, her breathing steady, her posture unchanged, still composed, still grounded, even now. "You are interfering with an active federal investigation," she said again, quieter this time, but somehow heavier, because now the truth was visible, undeniable, and the consequences were no longer abstract. Ryan took a step back, just one, small, but it broke something, the illusion of control, the certainty he had held on to, and in that single movement, the entire moment shifted direction. The sound of approaching vehicles grew louder. Tires against asphalt, lights appearing in the distance, and Ava stood there, steady, watching as the reality he had resisted finally arrived. And if you can feel the tension breaking right now, comment below what you think happens next, because moments like this do not just change outcomes, they reveal everything that was hidden beneath them. The flashing lights reflected off the badge for only a moment before something unexpected shifted again, not outside, but inside the space between them, and Ryan did not step back further. He stopped, completely, his eyes fixed on the badge but not accepting it. Not yet, like his mind was searching for a reason to reject what was right in front of him. The approaching vehicles in the distance grew louder, engines cutting through the night. But instead of relief, Ava felt a tightening in her chest. Something was not aligning, something was off. "That does not mean anything," Ryan said suddenly, his voice lower now, more controlled, but colder, and the words landed heavier than his earlier commands, because they were not driven by confusion anymore. They were driven by refusal. Ava blinked once, slow, her grip on the badge steady, but her thoughts shifting quickly, recalculating. Because this was not how it was supposed to unfold, not after the reveal, not after the radio calls, not after the clear signals that should have ended this. "Step back," she said again, quieter this time. But there was a strain now beneath the calm, a crack that had not been there before, and for the first time, doubt touched her, not about who she was, but about how far this moment might go. Ryan's posture straightened, his shoulders pulling back as if reclaiming something he felt slipping, his voice firm, louder again. "You do not give me orders," and the distance between them, though small, suddenly felt impossible to cross. The radio crackled once more, but now it was layered, overlapping voices, not all clear, not all directed at him, and the urgency that had been so sharp before now felt scattered, chaotic, like too many signals crossing at once. Ava listened, trying to catch something concrete, something that would anchor this moment back into control, but the clarity was gone, replaced by noise. The headlights in the distance grew brighter, but instead of forming into a clear line of arriving support, they split, one set slowing, another turning off, disappearing down a side road. And Ava felt it then, the shift in expectation, the realization that whatever was coming might not arrive the way she needed it to. Her breath caught slightly, just for a second, before she steadied it again, but the certainty she had been holding onto was no longer solid. It was thinning, stretching under pressure. "Turn around fully," Ryan ordered, his voice cutting through the confusion, reclaiming control of the moment, and Ava hesitated, just for a fraction, not because she wanted to resist, but because she understood what that position meant, what it exposed, what it risked now that the situation had slipped beyond predictable lines. The badge in her hand felt heavier suddenly, not as protection, but as something fragile, something that depended on recognition, and in this moment, recognition was not guaranteed. Slowly, she complied, turning further, her body aligning with his command, her back now fully to him, the vulnerability settling deeper into her posture. The wind brushed against her again, colder now, sharper, and the silence between the radio bursts felt longer, more uncertain. The lights kept flashing, relentless, but they no longer felt like a signal of authority. They felt like a warning that had come too late. Ava stood there, hands still raised, badge still visible, but no longer enough, her mind moving through every possibility, every outcome, and for the first time since the stop began, the path forward did not feel clear. It felt narrow, unstable, like one more step could tip everything in the wrong direction. And she could feel it, the shift in balance, the moment where being right was no longer enough to stay in control. The air felt thinner now, stretched to a breaking point. Ava is standing still with her back turned, hands raised, the badge still visible, but no longer enough to anchor the moment. And for a heartbeat it seemed like everything had slipped beyond recovery, like truth itself had lost its weight. Then it happened, not loud at first, not dramatic, just a low, controlled hum cutting into the chaos, different from the scattered noise before, steady, deliberate, approaching fast. Ava heard it before she saw it. And something inside her shifted, not relief, not yet, but recognition. Ryan did not move, his stance still locked, his focus still narrow, but his radio suddenly snapped alive with a new voice, clear, sharp, unmistakable. Unit 12, stand down immediately. And this time there was no distortion, no overlap, just authority, direct and unfiltered. Ryan's head turned slightly, just enough to register the tone, the difference, but he did not step back. Not yet, his grip on control still holding by a thread. The headlights that had scattered before now reappeared, not one, not two, but a line, coordinated, precise. Black vehicles moving in formation, silent except for the low growl of engines, their presence cutting through the uncertainty like a blade. Ava did not turn, did not lower her hands, but her breathing changed, slower, deeper, grounded again as the reality she had been holding on to finally took shape around her. I repeat, stand down. The voice came again, closer now, and this time it carried something undeniable, something that did not ask for compliance. It expected it. The vehicles came to a controlled stop, doors opening in sequence, not rushed, not chaotic, but precise, and figures stepped out, measured, composed, their movements aligned, their presence shifting the entire balance of the scene without a single raised voice. Ryan took a step back, small but visible, his posture no longer rigid, the certainty in his stance cracking, as the reality he had resisted closed in from every side. Ava finally lowered one hand, slowly, not as surrender, but as transition, her other hand still holding the badge steady, visible, undeniable, and for the first time since the stop began, the space around her felt different, not safe, not yet, but no longer controlled by him. One of the agents approached, calm, direct, his voice low but firm. Agent Carter. And the name landed in the air like a confirmation, like a truth that could no longer be ignored. Ava turned then, slowly, her eyes meeting Ryan's for the first time since everything shifted, and there was no anger there, no triumph, just clarity, the kind that comes when the truth finally stands on its own. Ryan's expression changed again, not in fragments this time, but all at once, the realization settling in, heavy, undeniable, his control gone, replaced by something else, something quieter, something closer to consequence. The radio fell silent. The lights kept flashing, but they no longer defined the moment. They framed it, and Ava stood there, no longer just a figure under scrutiny, but the center of a reality that had just turned, completely, leaving no space for doubt, no room for denial, only the truth, fully revealed. The shift was complete now, not loud, not chaotic, but absolute, like a line drawn in silence that no one could cross back over. And Ryan felt it before anyone said a word, the weight of it settling into his chest as the agents moved with quiet precision around him, not aggressive, not rushed, just certain. The man who had spoken stepped closer to Ava first, not even looking at Ryan yet, his focus clear. Agent Carter, are you all right? And the question was simple, direct, but it carried authority that did not need to prove itself. Ava lowered her hands fully now, slow, controlled, her posture steady, her voice calm when she answered, I am. And even that felt like more than just a response. It was a reclaiming, a return to the position that had been stripped from her moments before. Only then did the agent turn his attention to Ryan, and the silence between them stretched, not empty, but heavy, filled with everything that had just unfolded. Officer, he said, his tone level. But there was no uncertainty in it, no room for interpretation. You were given multiple direct orders to stand down, and the words landed without force, but they did not need it. Ryan opened his mouth slightly, as if to respond, to explain, to reclaim something, but nothing came out at first, because the reality in front of him had no space for the version of events he had been holding on to. "I was conducting a stop," he said finally, his voice lower now, less certain, the edge gone, replaced by something thinner, something that did not carry the same weight anymore. The agent did not interrupt, did not react immediately, just watched him. For a moment, and that pause was louder than any response could have been. "You interfered with a federal operation," the agent said, each word clear, deliberate, and final, "and you failed to comply with federal directives." And the structure of the sentence itself felt like a verdict forming in real time. The other agents had already begun to move around them. Quiet coordination, one speaking into a radio, another observing, documenting, their presence turning the scene from a moment into a record, something that would not fade or shift later. Ava stood a few feet away, no longer the center of suspicion, but still the center of truth, her eyes steady, her breathing even, not stepping forward, not stepping back, just present. Ryan's shoulders dropped slightly, just enough to show the shift, the realization settling in deeper now, heavier, and for the first time, he looked at her not as a threat, not as a problem, but as something else entirely, something he had misread completely. "You will need to step aside," the agent said, not a request, and Ryan did. A small movement, but it carried everything, the surrender of control, the acceptance of consequence, even if it had not fully reached him yet. The lights still flashed, red and blue cutting across the scene, but they no longer defined it. They framed something else now, something quieter, something final. The radio crackled again, but now it was routine, structured, controlled, the chaos replaced by order, the moment transformed into process. Ava glanced once toward the line of vehicles, then back to the scene in front of her, her expression unchanged, not satisfied, not relieved, just steady, because this was not about winning. It was about truth being seen. Ryan stood off to the side now, no longer directing anything, no longer holding the center, his voice silent, his posture uncertain, and the space he had once filled with authority now felt empty, like it had been waiting for something real to take its place. The agent spoke again, quieter this time, but no less firm. "This will be reviewed at a federal level." And the words carried forward, beyond the road, beyond the moment, into something larger, something that would not disappear with the flashing lights or the passing night. Ava remained still, grounded, her presence unchanged, and in that stillness, the shift was complete, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable, the kind of justice that does not shout. It settles, it holds, it stays. The night did not end with noise. It ended with a quiet that felt earned, the kind that settles after something heavy has finally found its place. And Ava stood there for a moment longer than necessary, not because she needed to, but because she understood what had just happened was more than a stop, more than a mistake. It was a moment that revealed something deeper, something that does not always show itself until pressure forces it out. The flashing lights still painted the road in red and blue, but softer now, less urgent, like even they understood the shift, and the agents moved with purpose around her, voices low, controlled, the scene transitioning from tension to record, from chaos to accountability. Ryan remained off to the side, no longer the center, no longer the voice that filled the space. Just a man standing in the aftermath of his own certainty. And the distance between where he had stood before and where he stood now felt larger than the few feet that separated them. Ava looked at him once, not long, not harsh, just long enough to acknowledge the truth of what had happened. And in that glance there was no anger, no need to prove anything, only clarity, the kind that does not need to raise its voice to be understood. She turned back toward the road, toward the line of vehicles, toward the work that had not stopped just because the moment had paused, because the mission was still real, still moving, still depending on her. One of the agents spoke quietly. Beside her, confirming next steps, confirming the operation would continue, and she nodded, her focus returning, her posture grounding again into the role she had never actually lost, only been forced to defend. The air felt different now, lighter in some ways, heavier in others, Because justice is not always loud. It does not always come with a moment of victory. Sometimes it arrives in silence, in correction, in the simple fact that truth was finally seen and could not be pushed aside anymore. Ava took a slow breath, steady, controlled, and for a second she allowed herself to feel it. Not relief, but resolution. The understanding that what happened here would not disappear, that it would carry forward into consequences, into change, into something that might prevent the same moment from happening again to someone else who did not have a badge, who did not have a voice that could be heard. In time, the road stretched ahead, dark, quiet, waiting, and she stepped forward, not looking back again, because some moments are not meant to be held on to. They are meant to be understood and then left behind. And maybe that is the truth that stays. That power without awareness can mislead, that assumptions can turn quickly into actions that cannot be undone, and that real strength is not in control, but in the ability to listen before a moment crosses a line it cannot return from. Ava walked toward the waiting vehicle, the operation moving forward, the night continuing, and the silence that followed was not empty. It was full of everything that had been revealed, everything that had changed. If you felt something in this moment, if you believe respect and awareness matter more than assumptions, take a second and share your thoughts below, where you are watching from, because stories like this are not just stories. They are reminders of the choices made in real moments. Choices that shape what comes next.